Welcome friends to my Mystery of Universe channel. In this video, we delve into the mysterious and unsettling occurrences happening in two neighboring houses separated by Darhanskaya Street. Both houses have reported strange poltergeist activities, including the appearance of a male and female silhouette and the presence of a child's ghost. But that's not all. Witnesses have also reported seeing a ghostly figure wearing a cloak and hat, an apparition commonly associated with shamanic rituals in Buryatia. Get ready for a spine-tingling journey that will leave you questioning the very fabric of reality. The Mysteries of Buryatia and Baikal series has been expanded with a new book, Buryatia and Baikal, Phenomena of Otherworldliness. Poltergeists, Ghosts, UFOs, Spatiotemporal Anomalies. The author is researcher Boris Mashkovich. This book will be of interest to anyone looking to broaden their understanding of reality. Encounters with Plasma Beings. A unique photograph was taken in May 2016 in the Darhanskaya Kamni area of the Tarbagatai district of Buryatia. A golden-orange volumetric glint with a cross-shaped form inside was captured in an unidentified author's photograph found on the internet. The initial identification was an orb, plasma being, an energetic life form. Igor Sokolov, the coordinator of the Moscow Center for Rehabilitation of Contactees UFOs, Russian UFO research station, commented on the photo, saying, "This is an orb, not a glint. Apparently, there is a deep rift in the Earth's crust there, and a lot of piezoelectricity accumulates. Orbs, or plasma beings, inhabit such areas as they are a source of food for them. It is interesting to note the manifestation of intelligence in these energetic creatures. They are often observed in such power places or anomalous places, also associated with faults. On Mount Kamushka, located in the southern part of Ulan-Ude, not far from the ruins of part of the air defense system, there is a missile bunker with a depth of about 100 meters. The entrance is welded shut and marked with a sign of radioactive danger. An eyewitness, who had to spend one night near it, heard a terrible screech. I was with my friend. We were sitting and praying for the dawn to come quickly. The sounds were heard 5 times. I don't remember exactly how often. And also, it was audible that someone was talking behind the hatch. It sounded like a normal conversation between 2 or 3 people, but it was impossible to make out what they were saying. The conversation was calm, like in a family circle. It was horrifying. I have been living on Kamushka since childhood and know the entire forest. From my garden, you can see this place. Very often, from 3 to 8 bright balls hover over it, and then they move chaotically up and down. This does not last long. Soon, they all land and disappear. My phone camera cannot distinguish them. We called the television and radio company, and they said they could not see this place. But many of us observe them. We have already gotten used to them. But the mystery still remains. The Serpent of Fire. In the late 1950s, a strange event occurred in the village of Zhemchug, Tankinsky district of Buryatia. A young boy named Alexei Darmaev's uncle, Alexander, witnessed the appearance of a fire snake in the sky. Alexander was returning home after a walk along Bolniknaya Street when he noticed something bright flying across the dark sky. The object resembled a small fiery vortex or a tornado, and it was later named the fire snake by the locals. Alexander couldn't take his eyes off the glowing object as it descended and flew directly into the chimney of the Tarnaev family's home. The Tarnaevs were a Buryat family with 4 children, 2 daughters and 2 sons. Alexander immediately informed his family about the strange incident. However, no one could explain the phenomenon, and it was perceived as something ominous. Years passed, and both Alexei's and his mother's families had moved to Ulan-Ude. In the 1970s, Alexei's mother began to learn the terrible details of the Tarnaev family's life in Zhemchug, whose chimney the fire snake had entered. The Tarnaevs had also moved to Ulan-Ude. As a result, the mother learned about the deaths of the Tarnaev's adult children from their acquaintances or fellow townspeople. The eldest brother in the family died in a construction accident at Lake Baikal, and another son was killed after being hit by a car. Their sister died of an unknown and rapidly progressing illness that doctors could not diagnose. Alexei's mother attended her funeral in Ulan-Ude. Another daughter from a Tarnaev family also died in the same period. Over a period of 10 to 15 years following the appearance of the fire snake, All of the Tarnay family's children died at a young age from either accidents or illnesses. Alexei's mother was inclined to attribute the tragic fate of the Tarnevs to the appearance of the fire snake, which had entered their home through the chimney. The phantom guest. Identifying patterns allows for a series of repeated facts to emerge. The more similar observations there are, the more accurate the details become. In my database, there are 3 unique observations of ghostly balls in a domestic setting. One of them is also related to the LVRZ district of Ulan-Ude. Memories of a Ulan-Ude resident. It was in the early 1990s. I was 6 years old at the time. My parents divorced, and we moved to my grandmother's 2-room Khrushchevka. Although my grandfather was already retired, he worked as a turner at the local plant, LVRZ. One summer evening my grandfather returned from work. We had dinner, watched Good Night, Little Ones, and got ready for bed. I slept in the living room on a couch with my grandmother. My grandfather was sleeping on the floor next to me, and my mother was in the other room. I remember it was unbearably hot. Although the balcony door and all the windows were open, I couldn't fall asleep. My grandfather was snoring rhythmically on the floor, and my grandmother was whistling along. I sat up. Even now, when I can't fall asleep, I sit on the bed, tucking my legs under me until I feel drowsy, looking around the room. The street lamp shone dimly through the window, but it was clear what was happening both in the living room and in the kitchen, or rather, the lack of movement. Suddenly, a gray ball rolled out from under the kitchen table. It was the size of a volleyball. It resembled a large clump of dust, but it was clear to me that it didn't have a physical form, as if it were a clump of mist. I dived under the blanket, still watching as this clump, having rolled from the kitchen into the living room, disappeared into a pile of clothes that my grandfather had taken off and left on the floor next to him before going to sleep. For a moment, there was a light haze above the clothes, more like steam. I don't remember anything else because I fell asleep. 9 days later, my grandfather died of a heart attack. Later, I told my mother of the incident, thinking she would laugh at me. She was silent for a long time, but then confessed that when she was 16 years old, she also saw that gray ball, and her younger brother died of it. If I ever see that ball again, I'll know what to expect. The appearance of the dusty ball is confirmed by another resident of Ulan-Ude. My mother told me this story. She was sewing my socks. Suddenly, a ball rolled out from under my computer table. It was like dust, semi-transparent, and through it, the emptiness was visible. The shape of the ball was perfect, round and smooth. My mother froze, and it rolled back and forth, around and around. Someone's footsteps in the apartment. In Ulan-Ude, locations saturated with tectonic faults and geopathic zones are ubiquitous. Based on the recommendations of the Biolocation Service, pyramids were used in such places. A series of such structures were installed on the roof of the Ulan-Ude Perinatal Center, where expectant mothers and staff repeatedly witnessed paranormal phenomena. Many pyramids can be found in the area surrounding the Saga Morin complex. The eponymous hotel has already survived several fires. The presence of geopathic stones in the 18th district is visually confirmed by the pyramid structure on the roof of a Titan store designed to neutralize harmful influences. Previously, another large pyramid was located above this Burbank branch. The DNS store inside it completely burned down, and an employee of the store died in the fire. It has since been reconstructed, with the main pyramid shape preserved. I would like to present several stories from residents of Ulan-Ude about paranormal activity in this area. Tashiana. 2 years ago, in 2020, my husband and I were looking for an apartment, and there was an urgent sale on Klochevskaya Street. A 2-room apartment was being sold inexpensively for some reason. It was a nice, warm apartment with a great location in the 18th district, so we bought it with a mortgage. It all started when our usually calm cat began to react strangely. He would sit and stare at something and hiss as if he saw someone. We constantly heard footsteps and creaking floors at night. Once, we heard a chair scraping against the floor. It turned out that someone had pushed it towards the table. Our son was only a year old then, and he always felt uncomfortable and often cried. Sometimes someone would knock on the door, but when we looked through the peephole, there was no one there. I tried to explain what was happening to myself, but sometimes events didn't make sense. The priest who was invited to cleanse the apartment did not explain where or what was causing these occurrences. He only said that we don't need to be afraid of the dead, even if restless spirits are wandering around here. He blessed the apartment, and things became calmer. The footsteps and knocking on the door stopped. But after a month, everything returned. Sometimes I would look at the light fixture, and it would turn off on its own right before my eyes. I turned it on again, but it would turn off again. At night, it suddenly became very cold, and someone would walk around the apartment again. Once, while I was sleeping, it felt like someone shook me so hard that I almost fell out of bed. I was shaking with fear. And again, something fell on its own. Alexander. Once I was left alone for a few days. My wife went on a business trip. At night, I heard someone breathing in my ear, and it felt like someone was grabbing my legs. And I always had the feeling that someone was watching me. Then one morning, I went out to the living room, and there was a puddle of water on the floor, a lot of water. Moreover, the ceiling was dry. There was no leakage anywhere, and I am sure that I did not spill the water. I did not bring it into the room at all. That's when I started to think that my wife was right. It's some kind of devilry. Julia. I also lived in a house on Darhanskaya Street, only in Building 42. We constantly heard someone's footsteps. The floorboards creaked. Clearly audible were the steps of an elderly person, walking slowly and shuffling on the floor, like a grandmother. Then things began to disappear. Sometimes we found them in completely unexpected places. By the way, the footsteps were not only at night, but also during the day, which is even scarier. Once I heard a loud crash in the kitchen, went in and saw that the glass plate with fruits, which was standing on the table, was smashed into small pieces. Moreover, it did not fall on the floor, but seemed to have shattered by itself. In the end, we sold the apartment and moved out, because living all the time with frayed nerves became unbearable. Terrible silhouettes. In the neighboring houses of location number 24 and number 22, separated by Darhanskaya Street, identical manifestations of poltergeist were recorded. In house number 24, the resident reported, "Our refrigerator starts beeping if you don't close it properly." One night, I had to get up 5 times to close it. My husband was asleep. I was watching TV, and the cat was sleeping on the wardrobe. Everything in the wardrobe was neatly folded. Suddenly, the wardrobe door opened and everything fell out. Another time, we heard a loud noise coming from the bathroom. Everything was in disarray, and this time, even the mirror was broken. Previously, it had fallen. The cat ran to the balcony and hissed. My child cried for a very long time. And then we heard the noise again and found that the bowls and buckets had been overturned. In house number 22, another resident shared. Soap dishes were scattered in the bathroom, and bowls were lying around on the floor. The cat constantly looked at something, then suddenly shifted its gaze, sensing someone's presence. Sometimes the someone even scared the cat, and it hid under the radiator, staring wide-eyed at nothing. In the absence of the owner, the icons would turn their faces towards the wall. Once, when my mother came to visit and woke up in the middle of the night, she saw a woman with long black hair standing in the middle of the room facing the icon of the Holy Mother of God. She couldn't see her face, and the silhouette vanished. My mother was so terrified that she couldn't even speak. Interestingly, the image of a woman with long hair is one of the most common apparitions, along with a tall male silhouette or a child. However, there are several reports of witnessing a male silhouette wearing attire that is not typical for Buryatia. Svetlana Vasiva from Ulan shared that the same ghost was seen by members of their family from different generations. She said, "I first encountered supernatural forces in my childhood. Once, I unexpectedly woke up in the middle of the night and saw the silhouette of a person in the doorway. He was wearing a cloak and a wide-brimmed hat. Interestingly, I looked at him and didn't feel any fear. The phantom approached my bed and reached out his hand towards me. I saw his palm slowly getting closer to my face, and just as it was about to touch me, the ghost disappeared." Many years after the events of the story, when I myself had a 12-year-old daughter, there was a continuation. One night she told me she had seen a ghost. At first, my daughter thought that someone had broken into our house, but then she saw that light was coming through the stranger from a gap in the shutters. And the most interesting thing was that the ghost was wearing a cloak and hat, just like in my childhood. In 2014, in the Dabatuilis of the Petursky district, shamanic rituals were performed to summon strong spirits. Their aim was to calm the spirit of a child who had died long ago and whose ghost was bothering the residents of the Ulis. After the ceremonies, the local shamaness forbade anyone to speak of this to outsiders. Only a chance witness who was giving a local resident a ride learned of the event and reported it to the weekly Informed Polis. A local resident explained to the journalists, "I have seen this strange phenomenon many times. The figure of a little girl who has appeared to me repeatedly, but whether it was a girl or not is unclear, as some people claim to have seen a boy, so I cannot say who it was exactly. But people say that this child died a long time ago. Why their soul has not found peace, nobody knows. We have a shamaness in our village. Perhaps she knows what it is, but we cannot say anything." In conclusion, the mysterious silhouettes and supernatural occurrences described in this video are both intriguing and unsettling. From the poltergeist activity in neighboring houses to the sightings of ghosts wearing cloaks and hats, these stories offer a glimpse into a world beyond our own. Whether or not you believe in ghosts and the paranormal, there is no denying the power of these stories to captivate and terrify us. If you enjoyed learning about these supernatural experiences, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more intriguing and thought-provoking content. Thank you for watching.